The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Gerber, Iamaki, Albrecht, and Toika. 4 fast names separated by only 16 points. And while Iamaki may have won 3 of the 4 races so far, consistency seems to be making his rivals difficult to shake. That's proven to be a valuable asset in a series as topsy-turvy as this one. Nothing is guaranteed once the green flag falls, so all 4 of them will have to be on their toes. Will any one of them stand out here at the infamous Brickyard? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, Indy needs no introduction to most race fans, but we are running the bike circuit today, so why don't you give us a little info on this lesser-used version?
Yeah, sure thing, Joe. Most everyone knows the story of Indianapolis Motor Speedway's finish line, showing a look back in time into the Brickyard era of racing in the early 1900s. Most people know Indianapolis from the Indy 500 and the Brickyard 400, or maybe even a few iconic F1 races. But today is going to be a different story as we're here at the bike circuit, like you said. The first thing you'll notice that is unlike the normal road course here, drivers are going to be driving the track counterclockwise instead of going in a reverse direction on the front straightaway. The second thing you'll notice is that turn 1 does not span the entire oval turn 1, instead it dips down into the infield. The flatness and technicality of these 16 corners are sure to provide a difficult task at hand for the drivers today, as the track spans 2.6 miles or 4.2 kilometers. To get a better look at the Speedway that's located in the town of Speedway, let's send you down to the track for the GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Johnny Bell in the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around Indianapolis. Typical for a Roval, turn 1 is fast, but watch out for the bump on your way in. You'll kind of slow up as you go, hugging the left side to set up for 2. Remember, this was meant for motorcycles, so this is going to feel very tight in this powerful prototype. 190-degree right-hander leads to another, but this time 3 flows into the hairpin of 4. That brings you back onto the oval portion for just the southern short chute. The flat-out turn 5 is going to give you a brief moment to relax and take us to the finicky braking for turn 6. There's a slight curve in the track, making it an annoyingly late apex. Once again, we meet the nemesis of a turbo-powered car from the 80s, slow, twisty corners. 7, 8, and 9 require patience and a cautious right foot. Don't be too scared to put it down, though, because as it empties you onto the backstretch, you need to get as much speed as possible. Bring it off to the right, but only to the curb, because that's considered the boundary of the track. Then you've got a good potential passing spot, end at 10. Like a lot of spots on this track, it winds its way through a slow set of corners, this time the 180-degree bend of 11. There unfortunately isn't a whole lot of time to set up a pass with the kink of 12 blending into 13. But when it gets towards the end of the race, don't be surprised when drivers make a desperate lunge into this left-hander. It's a similar situation from 14 to 15, where the winding of the track makes it difficult to communicate your intentions. But your focus should be on this final corner anyway. Bringing you back to the front stretch and the longest acceleration zone of the circuit, it really demands that you get yourself the best launch possible. Expect a lot of drivers to have a game of chicken down to that first corner, but hopefully you've now finished a lap around Indianapolis. You see a lap around the bike circuit here at Indianapolis. Qualifying is already kicked off, but we have no times on the board, so we've got a little bit of time to check on the points situation. Let's start with the GTP class. Of course, this is the upper echelon of the prototypes. Fabian Gerber leading by a mere 5 points over Ardo Iamaki, making some inroads on Fabian. That bumps Justin Albrecht down to 3rd. Now, I mentioned it in the pre-race intro. Timu Toika back there, only 16 points from that 1st to 4th place. That's pretty tight, considering we're almost halfway through the season. Ansi Lepisto rounds out our top 5, but he is hanging pretty far back. Let's take a look at the GTP Lights. This is the amateur championship that they run here. And you can see that Czechoslovakia has a large presence here in this class. Martin Krejcik leading Bronislav Robanek. Carlos Fonseca disposes of Radek Sikora for that third place position in the points. Johnny Bell stays where he is, back down in fifth. What about the Audis, the two classes we have down there? What are we looking at, Nick?
First up in our top division here, the GTO standings, Riley Thompson coming off that win last week at Detroit. He is going to be in the lead with 82 points. Phil Lake going to be behind him with 9 points. Milan Arnozzi saw him get a win a couple of weeks ago at Sonoma. Dennis Neidhart and Nicholas Mukanos going to be 20 and 21 points behind him. And then we also have the GTU standings. And correct me there, Phil Lake was the one getting the win last week at Detroit. But here in the GTU standings, Matthew Jetse going to move up into the lead. He's going to be dethroning Hideki Koivisto, who will swap those positions. 5 points back is him. Adam Lindgren and Michael Haynes are going to be 6 and 17 points back. And Gregorio Buscemi, 8 spots. He will rise into the top 5. He's going to be 20 points back from Jetse there in the GTUs.
If you haven't watched this series before, real quickly, let's familiarize you with what we're going to see today. We are in round 5, as I mentioned. Today's race is a sprint race. It is only 40 minutes long. And of course, naturally, you should not expect any pit stops during this race, scheduled at least. The setups are open on the car, and that means that they can actually modify the setup of the car itself, wings, springs, whatever you want to suit your driving style. Anything that could happen to the cars in real life that the team could do to change the setup. There's the scoring down there, 25 points for first, down to 1 point for 20th. Considering we have a little bit of a small field today, pretty much everybody in both classes will be getting points out there. Now, also, if you enjoy this race, we highly encourage you to subscribe here to the iRacing Esports Network, because they not only have the Kamel series, but we've got the Lotus 49, as well as lots of the World Championship series here on iRacing, and many more that you can follow. But you got to click that subscribe button so that you make sure and you catch all the action here. As the times start to come in, Iamaki currently has the fastest up in the prototypes, but it's Phil Lake leading the way down in the GTOs. Thompson following pretty closely behind him. Honestly, very, very tight between those two in terms of qualifying time. So I'm looking forward to a pretty tight race up at the top of those Audis.
Yeah, absolutely. The top of the Audis right now, as you said, Philip Lake able to keep that lead, and he was coming off that win last week at Detroit. Riley Thompson able to finish third place there. That was an exciting one for sure. This one 20 minutes faster. It's going to be a 40-minute race instead of the 60 minutes, so going to be slightly less hectic for them, I'm sure. But we saw quite a lot of fuel strategy go into last week. It's one thing not going to have to worry about today. But nonetheless, definitely going to be exciting. It's going to make up, the track here is going to make up for that excitement.
We ride on board with Phil Lake. Let's see what he can do on his second lap. Right now, he leads Thompson by 17 thousandths of a second. And second one across is not faster for Lake. For Thompson, it is faster, and he's going to take the pole away from the number 4 car. Ooh. I think it's going to get a little bit spicy here then. Milan Arnozzi is going to join them on the front row, actually, so he's faster than Lake as well, as more times continue to slot in. One that I'm watching for, because right now Ardo Iamaki, who leads the GTPs, has got a big gap over the next car, over a second over Stephen Warkup. One of the drivers I think that should be able to challenge him is this man, Antti Lepisto, another Finn. He's coming around to complete his first time lap just now.
Absolutely, Antti Lepisto. We've seen him be very, very strong all season. Been challenging Ardo Iamaki there for the top spot in all the races, and he's going to be just shy. He's going to go to second place as of now, but he does have one more lap.
Just under a 10th behind Ardo Iamaki. That's a much closer fight as we ride on board. Let's see what we can pick up from on here. There's some tight, fiddly little corners. They're made for motorcycles, obviously, with this being the bike course, not making obvious why it's named that. So I have to imagine that the turbo lag in these Nissans is going to be a little tricky.
Absolutely. They have just the tight turns to get around, a lot of off throttle here in those really tight hairpins, and the whole track essentially is flat too, which does not help the balance of those cars one bit either.
This comes down to turn 10. You can see that paved area off to their right coming into that corner. We should note that is out of bounds, so they cannot race out there. It's only up to where you see the curb on that turn entry. Now through the final portion of this Roval circuit, long left-hander leading into a final chicane. And can Lepisto get that little bit faster to try and take pole away from Ardo Iamaki? He's on the front stretch now. He has less than a tenth to try and improve. As he crosses the line, he does improve. Is it fast enough?
No.
Oh, it is. 16 one-thousandths of a second for pole. Oh. I think both classes are going to be very, very interesting in this race. Michael Haynes just completing his qualifying now as well. Believe, Haynes actually has both of his in. So does Ove Trangrade, who's still out there, and Johnny Bell. So our field has been set. That's going to take us to the grid here in round 5 at Indianapolis. Let's read you through it. As we mentioned, Ardo Iamaki managed to take the pole. Antti Lepisto will be starting next to him in second place, but it looks like it's really a toss-up on who's faster here today, at least on one lap pace. Stephen Warkup, he's quite a ways back, so it might be more of a battle for best of the rest with him starting from third. Martin Krejcik will be behind him in fourth. Then the next row has John Keefe starting fifth and Bronislav Robanek in P6. Johnny Bell starts in seventh, who ran our lap guide for us. Big thanks to Johnny. Carlos Fonseca will be eighth, and we don't see him here, but Ryan Lang will start behind them in ninth. He did not get a lap time in.
And the GTOs is going to be Riley Thompson on the pole there. Second place alongside him going to be Milan Arnozzi, followed by Phil Lake, Adam Lindgren, and Nicholas Mukanos. They will be the top 5 for that class. Then Tanner McCullough is going to be starting 6th there. Franco Scurry, Jamie Hall, Dennis Neinhardt in the 8 car, a little further back than I might have expected him here. Laurie Matsavara, Ove Trangrade, Sergei Serbin will round out 21 cars overall field. Hideki Koivisto, Don Peak, and Michael Haynes will be the full GTO field today.
Well, the good news for the GTO field is that it is the larger of the two. A relatively small amount of drivers up in the prototypes, which would mean a little bit fewer in the way of interruptions, hopefully, for those cars as we now fly down the grid. They're waiting to take off on their pace lap behind the roof pace car. So we'll be, of course, with most mixed class racing, a rolling start out here today. Now, what I'm curious to see is, it's been a while since we've covered a race here at this bike circuit here, Nick, and when we did, it was in the MX-5s last, I think it was, which is a very different car to these two. So I'm curious if passing is going to be difficult. Does it take away a lot of the opportunities, or with it going in sort of a reverse order here, does it actually introduce passing opportunities?
There are a lot of good passing zones here. The problem is that there's just very little speed going into a lot of these turns. Like we said earlier, the track obviously designed for motorcycles who would be able to, zip through these tight hairpins and chicanes a lot faster than these full-bodied race cars. But the thing that I'm more concerned about is definitely the multi-class racing, when the Nissans are going to catch back up to the Audis here. A lot of these corners, there's barely enough room for 1 or 2 of them to go through there, let alone 2 or 3 of the same or different class.
Yeah, and as we know from following this series for a while now, that it gets chaotic quick. And when we say 3 or 4, that's not an exaggeration. You might actually see 3 or 4 wide at some point today. Now work their way through the infield portion as we take a look at Thompson, our pole sitter over on the Audi side. He's certainly got good company there. As you mentioned, Thompson, Arnozzi, Lake, all race winners. Adam Lindgren, I don't think we've seen him win a race at least on the broadcast in the GTO, so I'm sure he'll be hungry for that good opportunity here with a somewhat smaller field today. Mukano's behind them, tends to be a major player. So very, very good talent up in the GTO class. This could be a good chance for the GTPs, though. Some of the drivers who tend to not see podiums up there maybe win one today. It all depends on how it squares off between Lepisto and Iamaki.
Absolutely. A lot of talent still in both of these classes for sure, despite the smaller field today. But as they make their way around these last few turns, we're all going to see here how aggressive they get at the start and what that means for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and coming down into turn one, a lot like many Roval first corners, this one, where you are taking a very fast corner into a curved braking zone, and that could catch a few of these drivers out. So as they come around the final corner, the roof pace car now peels its way into pit lane. Iamaki has control. He's stacking them up, making them wait. Now he accelerates away. Green flag is out here in round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT Series.
Oh, trouble in the Audis already before they even got to the line, too.
That looks like Phil Lake, one of those having trouble. Meanwhile, the GTPs have hit the first and second corner, and they're getting single file very quickly. So it looks like that is much more calm. But now the GTO class is headed down to that same section.
Milan Arnozzi diving underneath Riley Thompson, and Thompson going to try to cross him over here to not let him get away. But right now, it is Arnozzi into the lead.
Beautiful move at the start of the race. That could get him his second win here this season as he stretches away, coming through the southern short chute. And now back into the infield they go. So those cars also starting to spread out, trying to get themselves some track while they don't have to deal with the second class. That brings Tanner McCullough there, you can see in the blue car, up into the mix as we switch over to the GTPs. It is Iamaki leading Lepisto. Warcup slots into third with John Keefe in fourth and Krejcik in fifth.
Definitely a much cleaner start over here in the GTPs as Lepisto trying to not let Iamaki get away, and he does have Warcup at a pretty much even gap behind him as well.
I think things have mostly settled down with both classes as we watch Iamaki start to try and break that draft already. Seems even though it's shorter than normal here at the road course, the Roval, it is still a fear. So let's take a look at the replay and what happened at the start. I had my eyes on the GTPs. Did you see what exactly happened here, Nick?
Phil Lake got clipped here, you're going to see. I believe that was by Lindgren there, and just a little bit of a domino effect. Actually got into the back of Arnozzi a little bit when that happened. And it just kind of stacked a couple of drivers behind them up. It allowed some guys like Tanner McCullough to move all the way up to third place.
Yeah. Lindgren trying to take evasive action. He moved off into the side when Lake was not expecting it. You see it from Tanner McCullough's point of view, then we'll come back live. Oof. Yeah, unfortunately, that can happen at times, especially since they get the green a little bit earlier, and that can cause miscommunication. But otherwise, just seems like only Lake fell victim to that, and he actually has taken to the pits to get repairs. He must have had his suspension touched in that tiny little contact with Lindgren. Come back live now. The number 5, Riley Thompson, still chasing Arnozzi. Relatively close fight. Arnozzi taking a little bit of liberties with the track exit there.
Yeah, Arnozzi really further back there off the track, because it looks like Neidhart ran into a couple issues possibly there. Looks like he got into it with Lori Montevari.
Or the other way around. I think Lori got into him. Turned him around coming onto the back stretch, and unfortunately that cost him at least 3 or 4 places. So Dennis has got some work to do now. We'll watch one more time from on board the DH driver.
Yeah, just one of those turns where there's not a very large amount of room there to work with.
See them coming back onto the front stretch now. I want to jump back up to the prototypes, though. Keefe and Krejcik seem to have found themselves a nice little battle. This is for P4 still, as they come back onto the back stretch down towards turn 10. In a few places you can have a pass into here. Keefe, one of the drivers that said he was surprised at how much he enjoyed this circuit. The regular Roval doesn't have too many fans here on iRacing.
Yeah, many drivers post-race last week in interviews were talking about how much they were looking forward to this. Just a lot of these drivers, they like to drive different cars. They also like to drive different layouts. And John Keefe, of course, one of those right now, holding off Krejcik for 4th place.
He's within sight of War Cup, so he could try to chase him down yet still, but I'm sure his eyes are more in his mirrors as we look out the 007 cam back at Martin. Just keeping him in check. Haven't really had a go at him that we've seen on screen as they fly down into turn 1. You know, what surprised me as I was putting together the lap guide is I didn't realize there was such a huge bump into that corner coming off the oval portion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that really rough transition going from that bank to oval. The banking here doesn't look like it's too much, but when you hit that flat apron, you really feel that transition underneath you. And a lot of these cars really close to the ground, like the Nissan especially, you got to be really careful. That car gets really finicky over that bump.
Keefe seems to be leaving Krejcik in the dust. Let's jump over the GTOs as we've got a little bit of a 5th at the moment. Franco Scurry and Jamie Hall have been keeping close eye on each other. Hall, one of the teammates of Phil Lake, trying to carry that dirty torque flag. They now head into turn 1, swinging wide, keeping it hugged off to the left. And it looks like Scurry's not going to be close enough this time to have a go.
Scurry's been keeping him in check. A lot of these cars, they all get really bunched up, as you see there, right through those really tight motorcycle preferred sections of the track there, but all creating so much better racing. You see them taking so many different lines through there, trying to figure out this layout as well.
Variety of lines means different opportunities opening up.
A little bit of a slide there for Scurry as he's trying to close in here on Hall.
And these cars we've seen in the past, Nick, aren't necessarily fans of being slid around too much. Especially, I've driven this Audi, and boy, over the course of a race, you can lose some serious grip in that car.
Yeah, before the race, I wanted to get the feel of the track for myself in the Audi, and that lap did not last long, let's just say. So it is not super easy here at this layout, especially by yourself, let alone trying to run with other cars and chase them down.
Well, speaking of which, let me see how close we are to seeing lap traffic. I actually think Yamaki is about to catch the first of the GTO cars. The good news is that they are spread out. It's Michael Haynes that he's coming up to right now. Looks like Haynes going to stay wide at turn 10. Let one of them through and both of our leaders through. Lepisto sneaks by just in time.
Looks like Iamaki has Don Peak and Hideki Koivisto ahead of him. They're making their way onto the front stretch now. As Iamaki has a couple turns there.
Now, one thing we haven't mentioned is the weather yet. It's actually pretty cool, and 71 degrees on track is because, well, it is at 1912 in the evening, Army time, or virtual standard time. I believe that's a little after 7 o'clock. So a little bit late in the day here for this race compared to what we're used to seeing. But at least it's giving the drivers quite a bit of grip out there.
Yeah, you can really see the little bit of a sunset there as the shadows casting on the grandstands, and you see the oval track behind you there. But yeah, going to be a lot grippier for these drivers, which I'm sure they love.
Yeah, in the GTO field, look at this battle going on. This is Dennis Neidhart working to the inside of Sergei Serbin and not able to gun it off the corner fast enough. He could get another try down into turn 10. He takes a little bit of a peek. He sticks his nose in, but can he get it done? Because the track is going to switch back into 11 here, and I think he's got it. Now Serbin has to worry about Ove Trangarade, who started a little bit farther back than we're used to. He's not going to be able to take advantage of that pass happening in front of him. Adam Lindgren back behind, now trying to get through. Now, when did Lindgren fall backwards?
I think he fell backwards at the start there when he got into the side of Phil Lake. I think a little bit after, in that lap, he fell back.
Interesting. I thought that he hadn't lost places with that, but it looks like he did, in fact, lose a good chunk of them. Now he's stuck at the tail of this train of cars, all fighting for what is effectively 8th, held by Neidhart for the moment. Still 30 minutes left to go. We're a quarter of the way through the race at this point. And they're going to have a little bit of company soon. Ardo Iamaki catching this train.
Yeah, Iamaki's going to want to catch him at a good section. He's going to want to catch him more in a section of the normal road course and not so much a section of one of those moto track detours that the layout takes. But it looks like he's going to catch him in a fairly good spot, possibly.
I don't know about that. Through these S's, you can see he's going to try and get by Lindgren, but he just cannot get the power down, making it incredibly frustrating. And this is actually causing Lepisto to catch him. Lepisto does not get a run onto the back stretch. That's one Audi done. They don't catch them down this straight. Oh, trying to go around the outside. It looks like Lepisto could take the lead away, and he does with a beautiful outbraking maneuver. Here comes Iamaki back around the outside, looking at 3 wide now through 10, 11, contact. Lepisto gets almost turned around. He gets the car going once again, but not without taking a detour through the grass.
Iamaki had to check up so majorly going down through the infield there, and then he had to be so ginger back on the throttle trying to get that so calm and have the turbo lag not spin him sideways, and then here going 3 wide with train grade. Just a little bit of contact made, not enough room for all 3 of them there.
I think this was a net code between them. Yeah, that didn't look like those cars made contact there in the replay. So unfortunate for the Finn. And as that was happening, John Keefe just got overtaken by Martin Krejcik down into turn 2. Using a little bit of draft and some of the checkup that we're seeing with this traffic having to work amongst each other.
Looks like Lepisto is going to be able to hold on to that second position as well. Workup and going to be behind him still in 3rd. He closed in on him quite significantly, but he's got John Keefe to worry about, like you said.
Oh, yeah, Workup being held up. Almost trying to go 3 wide, and they make contact. John Keefe getting into the back of Lindgren. Hopefully he didn't get too much damage from that.
That was Krejcik, the Audi that they were splitting there, and just no room there on the inside. He had to go through the grass, and that was John Keefe on the outside, just stuck there with no more room.
Yeah, I think they were both trying to be sneaky at the same time and didn't realize what the other was doing. Causing an inadvertent 3 wide situation. So Krejcik holds on to 4th now. John Keefe loses a little bit of time, but keeps the car going. Pass on screen, as I believe that was Laurie overtaking Ove. Oh, excuse me, no, Ove has managed to get by Laurie. In the Audis, Tanner McCullough has been keeping Thompson honest. Now I'm a little bit surprised by this. I would think the battle would be between Arnozzi and Thompson, not Thompson and McCullough.
Yeah, this new layout has really provided a lot of newer drivers. I mean, we've seen McCullough in most of the races so far in this series, but definitely a preferred driving or style for him at this track, apparently, being able to close in on Thompson. And Arnozzi, I'm sure, loving seeing this in his rearview mirror.
Absolutely, because Riley is a whole 2 seconds back as it is. If they start fighting more, on top of it, they've now got Iamaki, our leader in the GTPs, trying to sneak inside. This might not be a good spot for Thompson. He has to go wide at turn 10. It switches back in 11 to save his bacon, so McCullough can't stick his nose in quite yet, but he is a lot closer now.
Yeah, Thompson didn't like that, but McCullough sure did, and they've got quite a ways back until Antti Lepisto, as he'll be closing in probably this next lap on him, but McCullough definitely going to have a better lap there. Try to set up a run here on Thompson.
I've noticed over the years that these Audis punch a big hole in the air. Do you think this straight is long enough that maybe McCullough could use this draft to have a go down into 1?
I think it might be long enough for that to happen, but the problem is that it's so hard to get it side by side going down into turn one, especially when you have that big bump there, as we were talking about, that transition. It's just almost too risky to make it side by side there.
And you can see he did not get a good exit off of the final corner. Now they're going to be separated by Lepisto, who's still giving chase on Iamaki ever since their contact. He's 5.5 seconds behind, but obviously hustling the car as he is not interested in waiting around on this slower class, keeping him held up.
Yeah, when Iamaki went by the last lap, it really helped McCullough. That time when Lepisto went by, that really helped Thompson. So Thompson able to put a little bit of a gap on him there, as Lepisto will be able to get around. Maybe our nosy right now.
Takes a little bit, but he finally gets it done. That certainly holds up our nosy and gives some time back to Thompson. But we've got a battle going on for third in the prototype. Stephen Warkup has seen Martin Krejcik continue to put the pressure on from behind. Oh, as Krejcik goes way wide through 10. That's not going to help him.
It just shows you how much Lepisto is really pedaling that car, too, because Warkup, after that contact that they had closed in on the back of Lepisto. Well, now Krejcik has closed in on Warkup, and they're very far away from Lepisto.
Yeah, 7 seconds separating Lepisto and Warkup, which is a pretty significant gap, especially around a track with as short a lap as this one. They're coming up to McCullough and Thompson as well, actually, since I mentioned before, our nosy being caught by these guys. So all three relatively close together. This could make or break this fight.
McCullough there holding his line as you see them go around there, but that's really good. Oh, they're going to split McCullough.
Nice job by Warkup to get his car to the inside before turn 2, as they have to weave slowly through 3 and 4. He's not going to be under attack from Krejcik because of that, and Krejcik's still trying to get around McCullough in this process.
Yeah, bad exit there for Krejcik.
Slides all the way into the side of Thompson. Thompson manages to keep the car from getting bumped off track, but now this brings McCullough back up to him and separates him from the GTO leader. I don't think that was an intentional pass by Krejcik, but I guess it all worked out in the end.
Definitely not. And then Thompson now holding off McCullough, as you see John Keefe there. He's going to try to get by them. Ran into some trouble a couple laps ago, but representing his home state of Indiana today, I'm sure he'd love to fight back up there, sitting P5 right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love a podium here at Indianapolis. He's had good results here in the regular Roval when Kamel showed up at this track. He's left Thompson and McCullough alone to fight for themselves. Before, McCullough couldn't seem to get a good run on the front stretch. Let's see if he can this time to use that draft we keep talking about. Immediately, Thompson weaves to the inside to try and break that draft, and McCullough doesn't seem all that interested in staying in tow.
And just an update from P6 in the GTOs. Dennis Neidhart was able to get around Franco Scurry. We were monitoring that battle just a little bit earlier.
That happened down into turn 10 between them. Neidhart demoting Scurry now to 7th position as you see them working their way through turn 1. Scurry looking very strong through that left-hand sweeper, though. He takes a peek down into 2, but it's not going to work for now. So they now come into 3 and 4. We've got to let the car of Carlos Fonseca by in a moment. He can get the power down off the corner. We ride on board with 7th place Scurry. Down into turn 6. Scurry staying right in the tire tracks of Neidhart. He may have managed to overtake him, but he can't shake him yet.
Yeah, Scurry is there, definitely putting the pressure. I think he's getting on the throttle a lot better. He didn't quite do that there too much. That's going to be a really good exit for Neidhart.
And Neidhart lets the car of Fonseca through, so shouldn't bother that battle too much as they continue on trying to settle 6th place. And did Montivara just lose a position? Looks like just a close battle between them. An attempt was made by Trangarade. Couldn't quite pull it off. Excuse me, no, Trangarade was ahead, and Montevarro was trying to make a pass and could not pull it off on him. Adam Lindgren still sitting behind. This has got to be frustrating for Adam, knowing the pace that he has. Seems like regaining positions that you lost is very difficult to make the overtakes work.
Yeah, especially here with all these tight hairpins and really tight corners. Lindgren really feeling that struggle. He's going to dive to the inside here of Montevarro there, and he's going to make that pass work. That's one of the riskier turns to make a pass work, as they have the Nissan of Ryan Lang coming up behind him.
Well, Lindgren's finally got that one done. Next up, the road is Trangarade, but it seems like Trangarade's found some pace. Unfortunately, not fighting for as high a position as we saw a few hours ago in the Lotus 49. Ove certainly has got some work to do, at least in the Audi here at the Indy Bike course. He's trying to run down the likes of Scurry and Neidhart, who are still fighting. So if they keep going side by side, he could yet find himself a position. You can see he is staying very, very close to the gearbox of Scurry. Excuse me, of Neidhart.
Making it work right now, not letting Neidhart get away. Neidhart had a little bit of a slide there. Scurry's going to be able to take advantage just a little bit, shave off a couple tenths from that gap. But still, Neidhart holding strong.
We're now halfway through this race. So if Dennis has been able to withstand for this far, maybe he can hold them off for the second half as well, as they return to the front stretch portion of this track. Poor Cone having a little bit of a flight into the fence. I know there have been some drivers calling for them to add the curb that they did on the Roval portion, the normal Roval portion. I concur. I'd love to see them take a little bit of time to add that in. Not going to be able to get him this time, though. Franco Scurry, the Italian, still making Dennis work hard to hold on to this spot. They are ahead of Ryan Lang, who we saw overtake the likes of Trangarade and Lindgren a little bit earlier. Now he's got these two to deal with. Meanwhile, we've jumped up to second place in the GTOs. Thompson still scantly ahead of Tanner McCullough.
McCullough able to close that gap quite a bit, but here comes Johnny Bell in the number 23 Nissan trying to make the outside work. He's going to have to go through the grass.
A little bit of a mowing job, unfortunately, and he gets the car back on track eventually without turning it around. Certainly doesn't help his case on trying to keep Carlos Fonseca behind, who gained a bunch of time from that one.
And it shouldn't be long if Bell keeps it clean that he will be right back to the rear of McCullough and Thompson. Here he is already.
Well, the last try didn't work out. Let's see what happens down the front stretch this time. Could have damaged the underside of the car with how much he was bounding over it in the grass. He's looking at the inside of Tanner. Tanner's going to let him through. There's one, and there's two as he sneaks by Riley Thompson.
Thompson didn't get a very good turn there. McCullough, when he was getting passed by Bell, he was forced to take a later apex type of turn. It really helped him close that gap on Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson. It never ceases to amaze me how much better off the corners these four-wheel drive GT cars are than the prototypes, as Carlos Fonseca now works his way past the peak to the inside. Johnny Bell sliding off course. That little distraction gives McCullough a chance to try and pass, but he can't quite get it done.
McCullough was there. He had to hit the brakes hard to get off the rear of Thompson and not get into him there. He did a good job, and he couldn't go to one way or the other because there was Nissans on just about both sides of him there.
Fierce stuff for second place, while Milan Arnozzi is going to laugh his way to the bank. He still leads by 4.5 seconds over Thompson and McCullough. In case you're wondering what's going on with the GTPs, well, we're not really missing any battles up there. Ardo Yamaki still leads by about 7.5 seconds. And then it's a whole 14 seconds from Lepisto back to third place Warcup. It's pretty much what we expected based on the qualifying pace, except we kind of hoped that Lepisto would be closer to Iamaki. That little incident certainly robbed us of a little bit more action.
This battle for second in the Audis is still going on. Johnny Bell for the third time in 2 laps, making his way past them. And he's going to split them here once again, just like he did last lap here.
A little bit of a thorn in the side of these two. I'm sure they're going to want him to successfully make this pass this time. Still stuck in a sandwich in between the Audis. As he swings around the outside of turn 5. All he has to do is get on the power smoothly coming out of 6, because this is what tripped him up last time. And it looks like he's got it now. I think we missed a pass for 7th place. Ove Trangerade continuing his climb up through the field. Nick, I didn't quite see exactly where this happened. Let's look at the replay.
Looks like he was
front stretch.
Yes, looks like we're possibly going down into turn 1, possibly before he even got there. Got a really good run onto the front stretch.
Beautiful move there by the Scandinavian. That's going to gift him 7th place. And as we saw, since Scurry and Neidhart were in a close battle, Trangerade doesn't have that far to go to get up to the number 8 car. Now down to 14 minutes left on the clock. And I think we spoke too soon on the prototypes, because Krejcik is all over the back of Stephen Warcup.
This is one that we've been watching. Krejcik seems to be dealing with traffic a lot. There's almost contact made as they have Hideki Koivisto in front of him.
Koivisto off track from touching each other. Almost comes back and hits Martin Krejcik. Krejcik and Warcup did get into each other briefly as well, but Martin now takes the podium position. Let's watch that one again. Almost 3 wide. Warcup slides into the likes of Koivisto. And then the number 15 gets into the side of Warcup. He finally is able to get through. Argy-bargy, but everybody's able to keep their cars pointed forward.
Koivisto just about came back on the track to take them out again, but a couple of tenths of a second he saved that.
Koivisto currently running down 12th in class, still on the same lap as the leader in his class. But he's got a ways to go up to him. This is that battle for second we keep looking in on. It hasn't changed hands yet. At least I'm pretty sure. Am I correct? McCullough has not got by Thompson this whole race.
Correct. Thompson has been able to hold that steady. Tanner McCullough started in 15th overall. This is 12th overall that he's sitting in. Trying to make one more spot up here.
He's been trying for a long time now. Nothing's been successful. He's tried to use traffic. He's tried to use pace. He's tried a lot of things. And as Thompson weaves down to the inside to the pit wall to keep McCullough from getting the draft, this front stretch doesn't look like it's going to work for him quite yet. They swing it into turn 1 off of the oval portion. Ryan Lang going to come through another time on these two. Whoa, look at him close under braking, though. Oh, and he misses a gear. McCullough can't get the car going. That drops him some time. What was a couple tenths of a second is going to grow to 2 seconds.
These older gearboxes in those Audis are really finicky a lot of times. It's really easy to miss a gear. That's really going to hurt McCullough. McCullough, who's coming off of his best finish last week at Detroit with a P5. Best finish of the season for him so far.
Franco Scurry not having a good time. He not only lost a spot to Trangerade, but now Adam Lindgren is able to sneak through. Another case of the draft on the front stretch helping facilitate the pass. Let's watch Lindgren just get the run off the corner. Makes it look easy.
Lindgren continues to move his way back up. He's got Trangerade quite a ways ahead of him next.
And Trangerade doesn't have too much to go to Neidhart still, but he's been working on this for a while. It's been slow going to chip away at that, what was 0.8 of a second gap. It is now 0.5 between himself and the number 8 car. He's starting to lack time to really execute here. Coming around the final part of the circuit as they try to squabble over 6th place out here. Looks like we got a little bit of a battle brewing 5th in the prototypes. Bronislav Robanek, who hasn't had a lot of screen time, has started to catch up to John Keefe. Remember, Keefe had a little bit of contact with one of the GTO cars, and I wonder if he's damaged.
Yeah, Keefe's got a little bit of damage on that front end of that prototype, especially that front right. And that's definitely helping Bronislav Robanek, whose car looks much cleaner than his, to get up there and especially on these straight lines, really close in on that gap. So we are just over 10 minutes left. Robanek should, if they keep it clean, have enough time, I think, to get to him.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, the way that the pace seems to have dropped off on that red and white Nissan of John Keefe, that he's going to be easy pickings for Bronislav Robanek. Surprised at how many cars have stayed within the same lap of their leader. Kudos to everybody for really showing good pace out here. I think the only one who has been lapped by his own class leader is Michael Haynes, still on the lead lap. I think he's been lapped. Oh, no, he is on the lead lap of the Audis, it looks like. Phil Lake has been lapped, however, that was due to slightly different circumstances. Before the first lap even happened, Phil Lake unfortunately ran into trouble. He got the car back out there. He's been hoping to pick up positions, but all 24 cars are actually out still running. So, unfortunately, this does not seem to be the race to have an incident.
Yeah, many times we see an early incident in this series, and the carnage that commences after that are enough to give him, a handful of positions back. But bad day for Phil Lake. I think he might be stuck there at the tail end of this thing.
Yeah, unless someone has an incident pretty soon, with him being 3 laps down, he's not going to be able to overtake anybody, even if he stays out all the way to the checkered flag. This man, Milan Arnozzi, continues to lead, now by 6 seconds over Riley Thompson. We are seeing a new challenger born. Milan Arnozzi is not just a one-hit wonder. It looks like he's going to take win number 2 this season. First one at a bit of an unusual track over at Sonoma. Second one going to be at an unusual track. He seems to be the odd man out, if you will. Just able to take advantage of the tracks that maybe other drivers aren't as familiar with.
Absolutely. That win he picked up just 2 weeks ago at Sonoma, very dramatic fashion.
Oh, and Jamie Hall. Oh. Jamie Hall seems to have just pulled off the track and disappeared.
Possibly hardware issues, as he looks like he disconnected there. He was running P5 in the Audis.
Oh, that is disappointing. But it'll be good news for his teammate, because I think Phil Lake will now finally get at least one position before all is said and done. Our first retirement of the day with 7 minutes left to go on the clock. Riley Thompson still doing his best to hold McCullough back. McCullough doing his best to find any hole in the armor, but none is forthcoming.
McCullough, after missing a shift about 4 or 5 laps ago, really thought that might be the end of this battle, but he has really showed a lot of pace today, like we said earlier, and really charged back up here and trying to take this second place. He does not want to go away from Thompson's mirrors.
Yep, the top spot of the podium has been decided. It seems like the other two are still very much undecided. Martin Krejcik going to come up behind these two. He's waiting patiently. He's not under threat from War Cup for the moment. So he's got time, and he's going to swing around the outside of 11, and now I think he's got it done. And almost gets into the side of Thompson. This finally opens the door for Tanner McCullough. He's got the inside for a couple apexes here. Can he finally get this done? I think he's got the pass, but what about Thompson coming down the front stretch? We've seen he's been good getting on the power. He tries to cut it as sharp as he can. That could get him a cut course penalty, though. I don't think it did. He's got the nose inside. It's going to be a drag race down to turn 1.
Thompson gets through the shower of cones as he's going to try to pull up alongside of him here and dive it down into turn 1. He's got to make it stick. He can't let the car get unsettled. He's going to be able to hold it, though, as McCullough can't get around him because he's got Warcup there setting up as a pick.
And he's going to split them temporarily as Thompson really isn't interested in letting Warcup through for the moment. Now he's able to go around the outside of turn 5. But wow, what a close call for Riley Thompson. Lost the position for all of 4 or 5 corners, but parked it on the apex of 1 and denied McCullough a chance to solidify the pass.
McCullough definitely not going away, though. He knows where Thompson's good. He knows where Thompson's bad. He's been studying his driving line the entire race.
Okay, he's going to follow him down. And I'm keeping half an eye on this, half an eye on Bronislav Robanek, who's caught the back of John Keefe for 5th in the prototypes. He pokes his nose out down into turn 10, but not a serious move.
Yeah, we've been seeing Robanek close in on that damaged car that John Keefe is driving. That is for 5th place in the prototypes.
The sun continues to go down here. And thankfully, I don't think it'll be an issue in terms of lightness. They've only got 4 minutes left, and there's plenty of light left for that. These Audis don't have headlights, unusually. Meanwhile, oh, look at this battle for 5th as well. And the GTOs, Neidhart having to fend off Trangrade in the dying stages.
And these are 2 drivers that have both moved up a handful of spots. Neidhart moving up about 4 spots, Trangrade moving up about 5 spots from the start of this race.
Whoa, Robanek has a big moment. What could have been a 5th place has been thrown away. I doubt he's going to be able to regain this unless Keith makes a mistake. Central Eastern European driver finding himself coming in way too hot into turn 1.
I think one of his major issues there was John Keefe was really having to slow down for Thompson and McCullough, the 2 Audi drivers we've been monitoring battling for P2 in that class. And Robanek, I don't think, anticipated that much of a checkup there. Nonetheless, though, even if he wasn't, still coming in really hot to that turn.
Oh, big slide onto the backstretch. Almost a power slide from Tanner McCullough. And what could have been an opportunity down to 10, I think he cost himself there. He was so close. Oh, deep into the corner. By both drivers making mistakes. Both drivers really on the edge of it. I think hashtag send it is exactly what McCullough is going to have to do to make this pass work.
He's got a few more good opportunities. And like I said, he definitely knows that was a big moment there for Thompson as he got up on the curbing. Allowed a little bit of a gap to be closed there.
Onto the front stretch once again. Tanner trying to get the power down. He slams the wall hard. He doesn't lose too much time, but how damaged is his car from that?
The right front pretty damaged from that contact with the wall. We'll see, though. These cars not overly aerodynamic to begin with. We'll see how much effect that has on him. McCullough right up to the rear of him.
And they've got Bronislav, who has regained composure and is going to have a second go at getting by these 2. Yeah, looks like Tanner didn't lose much time at all down the front stretch, so he's okay at least in straight line speed, but what about handling? Robanek gets through 1.
Robanek trying to get around Thompson now. He'll switch back to the inside and make that work, and not going to cause too much of a stir there. Actually, Thompson's going to have the door opened up on his inside. McCullough peeked down there, didn't take it. And now McCullough clipping the grass just a little bit to get him sideways, but he's going to have a big run down here on the straightaway.
Thompson covers him off the first part of the backstretch, but then comes back to the racing line. Feels safe enough, at least here. McCullough does not have a go at him. And we've got a little bit of time, about a lap and a half left. I'm just checking in on our leader, and Iamaki is going to get the white flag next time by. Whew, this is getting tense. You have to wonder, when is McCullough going to run out of patience?
I think his best opportunity might be if he can get it down into turn one. We've seen him dive it down into turn one before, but it's really hard to hold that position there. It's so loose and bumpy too. As now you see Thompson weaving on the front stretch, trying to break that draft that you might pick up.
Yep, down into turn one. This is where McCullough has been a little bit strong under braking. And as they work their way down to two, not as strong as we've seen him in the past, unfortunately. Behind them, Iamaki is taking the white flag. He is 11 seconds clear of Lepisto. Ever since that contact, the number one car has been nowhere. And Iamaki looks like he is going to go 4 for 5 this season if he can just complete one more lap safely.
It's been a dominant start for Iamaki, racking up the hardware, and he's going to add one to that list today, opening up that points gap as well.
And we should point out, Fabian Gerber not here today. So that's going to be a nice points haul on Iamaki to potentially retake the points lead. Milan Arnozzi as well, looking to take his second win of the season with a handy gap of about 8.5 seconds over Riley Thompson.
And I don't know if McCullough is going to have enough more opportunity to get to the back of that number 5 Audi of Thompson. Thompson looked really good this lap. One more clean one is all he needed.
Indeed, he's got this one more to go after they cross the start-finish line. So this race I don't think is over yet, because Ardo Iamaki will finish behind them. And you can see how much he's trying to break that draft to keep him at bay down into turn one. I think we're going to have enough time just to watch this, and we'll have to switch over. And it doesn't look like he is quite close enough this time. We've got to go to our leader. Ardo Iamaki comes to the start-finish line to take win number 4 this season here at Indianapolis. So Thompson still barely ahead of Tanner McCullough, and behind them, Tranquerade and Neidhart are side by side. Neidhart, whoa, that was actually to the line. That was them finishing. We'll get to that in a bit to see who came ahead of the other across the line.
Big mistake there for McCullough. He went wide there. Thompson took a defensive line, and that might just be the nail in the coffin, unless he's got a couple more turns here to get that momentum back.
Never say never. Riley Thompson has been known to make mistakes this race. He could yet still have a few more turns to throw it away. But so far, his defense has been beautiful, fending off the likes of McCullough all race long. This, however, is our leader, Milan Arnozzi. My hat's off to this man. For someone who was maybe a mid-pack to even a lower mid-pack driver for a long time, he has improved his pace. He has shown racecraft that has improved a lot, and he is being rewarded with his second win of the season here at Indianapolis. Thompson does take that second place home handily over McCullough, who's probably going to be kicking himself for a few missed opportunities today. Let's take a look who finished ahead for Ove in the meantime. As they come to the line, it is oh so close, coming down to it, and Ove's just gonna sneak by at the last second. That's gonna give him 5th place in that class. Let's watch it one more time from above just to show you how close this was. Just got by in time. A few feet between them, half a car length. Beautiful stuff. So let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back of course, with driver interviews as well as the official results. And as well on screen, you're going to see the upcoming races that we have here on the GSRC. So don't go away. Welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We just watched round 5 in the Kamel GT series. Your winner here today has been a winner a bunch of times this season. Ardo Iamaki, 4 for 5. Impressive stats for him, and that should bump him back up to the points lead. Antti Lepisto tried to challenge him at one point, but a little bit of netcode seems to have caused them to separate and never allow Antti to get a chance to fight back. He finishes second place. Martin Krejcik elbows out for him to get a podium finish here today. He had to get by Stephen Warkup, and it was a little bit of contact that allowed him through in the end. Warkup finishes fourth, with John Keefe managing to solidify fifth, holding off Bronislav Robanek, who in the end made a mistake coming into turn 2. And he winds up 6th. Carlos Fonseca, the first car a lap down, finishing 7th, with Johnny Bell taking 8th position. And then Ryan Lang finishes 1 lap down, the last of the GTP cars, down there in 9th.
Milan Arnozzi, like we said, taking his second win of the season in the GTOs. That's for 10th overall. He's followed up by Riley Thompson finishing second. Tanner McCullough getting his best finish of the season there in third, fighting Thompson all race long. Nicholas Mokanos and Ove Trangarade are going to finish behind them, fourth and fifth. Trangarade just barely getting that spot at the line over Neidhart. That are going to be followed by Adam Lindgren, Franco Scurry, Lori Matavara, and Sergey Serbin rounding out the top 10. And then our 15-car Audi field will be rounded out by Hideki Koivisto, Don Peak, Michael Haynes, and Phil Lake getting that spot over Jamie Hall there at the end.
A disappointing day for the Dirty Torque team as they were last and second to last in their class. But second place in his class is Riley Thompson, who's going to talk to us about that fight with Tanner McCullough. You had to hold him off for a long time, and it almost looked like for a moment that he would get by you.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting battling with him for the whole time. This track is definitely interesting to go just one wide with and battling with the track itself. So trying to battle with him was definitely interesting.
Now, we saw a little bit of damage on the right front of your Audi. Was that affecting either the handling or the top speed at all, or were you just unaware?
I don't think it really affected me too much. I got the wall pretty good coming out of turn 3 or 4. But besides that, I didn't feel like I was down on anything. Speaking
of the getting something good, Martin Krejcik at one point had to really send it coming into turn 5. What are your thoughts on that? Is that just kind of par for the course here in Kamel?
I was kind of surprised because I didn't see him coming, but after that, someone came in my chat and they're like, yeah, he just saved him from spinning. I'm just like, okay, I guess it's good that he didn't take me out there. So, lesser of two evils, I guess.
Yeah, glad to be of help, I guess. So, well, you managed to second place. Well done out there. You gave us a lot of excitement in a race with a slightly smaller field than we're used to.
Yep. Thanks for podcasting this as usual, guys.
That was Riley Thompson's second place here today in the GTOs. But Nick has caught up with Tanner McCullough, who was the other side of that fight.
Yes, I have. And Tanner, on the back of Riley's car, you saw hashtag send it the whole race. You were able to a few times, but you couldn't quite hold on. That was a long, daunting, enduring battle. Talk us through that race.
Well, that last lap there, I was really inspired by the send it on the back of his car and almost ran him over. But yeah, driving behind him was just a pleasure. There was a couple times that the Nissans dove down the inside of him, gave him a bump, put him offline, and he never really broke from it. He just immediately got back on the track, composure, and he was fine. It super frustrating because you're looking for those opportunities, and it just never happened for me.
You mentioned almost running him over. We saw that with a lot of different drivers all day. Part of the reason I suspect is the bike course that we use today. How is that trying to maneuver around a lot of these tight turns that you're not quite used to all the time?
I heard some other drivers weren't a fan, but this was probably my favorite race of the season this far. I had an absolute blast. I mean, I put in the fastest lap, so whatever this course is about, it worked for me.
Yeah, well, Tanner, you got the fastest lap. You also got your best finish of the season in your first podium with that. So next week, we go to a track a little more familiar. We've gone to a couple of unique tracks like Sonoma, Detroit, and this one. But we're back at Watkins Glen next week. I'm guessing the competition there are going to be really ramped up.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to be on the podium next week. I mean, I got helped out by Phil getting taken out at the start there this week. But yeah, next week should be a lot tougher for me.
All right, and it'll be exciting for sure. That's Tanner McCullough finishing P3 today in the GTOs.
Finishing 5th in the GTPs, we've got John Keefe talking to us. So Hoosier himself, John, is a top 5 satisfying, or were you hoping for more today?
Well, I mean, I'm satisfied, but I think I could have had a podium if that little incident with me, Adam, and Martin could have been avoided. But, you know, me and Martin, we race each other hard, so no harm, or, you know, I was going to say no harm, no foul, but I mean, we both kind of raced the same way, so it was enjoyable. So I'll say that.
Now, we saw you drop off significantly. In fact, Bronislav was hounding you up until he made his mistake. Was your car damaged? We were a little surprised at the lack of pace.
Yeah, it took just a little bit of right front corner damage, and it was enough to not even get me to fifth gear on the front straightaway. And that, yeah, Bronislav, he ran me down quick. He was making me nervous there. I don't know what happened with him through traffic, but I think I gapped him by about 9 seconds. But yeah, he was breathing down my back pretty hard there for a while.
We certainly thought that he was going to be able to overtake you. So I guess his incident is your saving grace. Now, it seemed like the race started very late here today, going from, I believe, to 7 to 8 o'clock almost here, virtual standard time. Were you surprised at how low the sun was?
Well, I ran Friday, yesterday, so I knew what it was going to be. But all week through practice, it was getting dark. Like where you need headlights. So up until Friday, I didn't know what the actual race scenario was going to be as far as time of day. So I was glad that it didn't go dark, because the Audis would have been impossible for them if it went, the way practice did all week.
Yeah, I guess practice lasting a little bit longer, so possibly what caused that darkness. Well, you dealt with it well. Sorry you didn't get up onto the podium, but still 5th place on home ground. Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, it's nice when the track is close by.
That was John Key, 5th place in the prototypes. One more driver we want to talk to, one involved in the opening incident that we saw. Nick has caught up with Adam Lindgren.
I have, and Adam, just quickly here, we saw the start of the race. You were definitely involved in that. What happened on your end of that one?
Yeah, basically, what ended up happening, first, I want to apologize to Phil. That was never my intention. I may be teammates with Riley, but that is not how our team plays. We're fair racers. But my perspective was the green flag waved, and the person in front of me just hit the brakes really hard, and so I took evasive action because I was expecting to hit the gas. I wasn't ready to hit the brakes there, and so I took evasive action. I thought I'd given Phil enough room, but apparently not. And as Phil is talking about now, just now in another server, he was like, we don't understand why he keeps getting meatballs because of small contact. And even though I did spin him, it didn't seem like enough to give him a meatball. So trust me, everyone involved was feeling bad about that.
All right. Well, definitely understandable. Really hectic at the start a lot of times in Kamel. So he finished 9th at Sonoma, 8th at Detroit, and today able to move up to 7th. But how hard was it to fight your way back up through the field with this moto configuration?
Yeah, I got a slowdown right at the beginning of the race, so that put me all the way at the back of the GTOs. And man, is it difficult to pass on this track. It's all about nailing your braking and braking at the last possible second without spinning out. And I'm glad to say that I didn't really have any other incidents with any other GTOs during the race. Just a couple while GTPs were passing, and it was really challenging, but it was really fun. I enjoyed the fight climbing through the ladder.
All right. Well, it was absolutely fun to watch. You got 9th, 8th, and 7th. Can we appropriately expect a P6 run next week at the Glen?
I sure hope so. All depends on how I qualify and whether or not I can stay out of trouble on lap 1.
All right. Well, Adam, it was an awesome race, and definitely look forward to possibly hearing from you again next week.
Thank you.
That was 7th place Adam Lindgren out there in the GTO class. I'm sure he'll excuse me if I could talk. He'll be hoping for more at Watkins Glen. We'll see what it holds and how many drivers show up, since that'll be during the 24 actually next week. But we got to close up here today. We want to thank the Kamel GT community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, as well as iRacing for bringing us onto the iRacing eSports network here for Kamel GT. Make sure and subscribe to IESN so that you can catch all the action here, including many of the World Championship Series. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page. We've also got a big red subscribe button. We highly encourage you to subscribe there because we've not just got this series, but many others of all different types of racing on the GSRC. Watkins Glen is up next for the Kamel Series. That's Saturday, January 19th at noon Eastern. Hopefully, drivers won't be too tired as it'll still be early in the 24 hours of Daytona, and hopefully they'll have teammates to take over so that they can race this wonderful series. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.